we finally hit 800 mega hash. Super happy about that.
But the slide is a homicide.
Alright, hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. Now today I finally got the HP server power supply, so we just got another unit right here with a few of the cables, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hook this up. So this is the 3090 for the Win 3, and because I'm maxed out on power, what I'm going to do is instead of putting it on a rig, I'm going to put it on a old desktop that I found and took apart. So this is a where is it here, LGA 775. So this is a motherboard back in 2007 2008, and it has like a Core 2 Duo, I think, so it's very old. But I'm gonna see if I can get this working just with one GPU right now. And yeah, so I just basically pulled it off from this server case. It comes with a 300 watt power supply, which is very old, and all I care about is none of the cables except this 24 pin that goes into the motherboard, and there's the 4 pin. So instead of a 6 pin on the motherboard, for the additional power, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, for additional power it uses the 4 pin instead of a 6 pin. So that's why I have to use this specific power supply with this specific motherboard, and I just want to see if it actually works. It does come with 3 PCIe lanes. One is the obviously X16, the other one is the X1 and X1. I just want to see if one of them works, right? And then later on, if I do have another GPU, I can plug it in to see if that would work on a riser. So again, nothing fancy. This is just straight from an old desktop. I just want to see if it works, and hopefully that will kind of save not myself but others money. You don't have to buy the latest CPU and motherboard. You should be able to get something from, let's say, Craigslist, an old desktop PC, and just hook up some of the GPUs. Right now I'm only going to be putting one GPU, which is the 3090, but yeah, we can test around to see how it works. So this is the HP server power supply. Okay, I've shown this on previous videos. These are the 16 PCIe cables. I highly recommend using this. This is of course the breakout board. Alright, so this is the X11 amp breakout board. It shows your voltage and current here as well, and when you multiply the two, that's how you know how many watts you're basically using. And we got a 1200 watt server power supply. Alright, cool. So we have the HP server power supply, 1200 watts, straight from a parallel miner, and you always want to inspect it before you use it for anything. And to me, it looks good to go. Same thing with the breakout board. I don't see anything wrong with it for now. And for those that don't know, this is how you basically use it. You'd rather use this with all the cables here than an ATX power supply, only because since you are going to be using multiple PCIe risers, you don't want to be splitting them. You only want to split, let's say, 3070s and below. Anything that's a 3080 or above, you don't really want to be using splitters for that. And since the ATX power supplies only come with a few PCIe cables anyways, it's better to just be using this. That way you can get 16 cables and you're never in need of a splitter. To put it together, these two things, and you put it like so. It does need a bit of force to actually go in. Okay, so now that it's in, this is where you put all your cables onto each one. Just make sure if you do put cables on one side, let's say 4 here, balance it out by putting 4 on the other side. It's just preference. I heard places where it doesn't matter, other places where it kind of balances out the load. In all honesty, I don't think it does anything, but it's just good practice. And okay, so let's go ahead and open the 3090 now. All right, so the packaging for the EVGA for the Win 3, this is a 3090. Like all EVGA products, packaging is very, very simplified. You just get the GPU, maybe one or two stickers, and that's it. It's not like a ROG Strix where you get a bunch of, you know, different stuff. Like I think they come with rulers and a few other things. EVGA packaging very simplified. All right, 3090 for the Win 3. Card looks okay. Just make sure to use a switch. So there's actually a switch right about here, right? And if you were to look at it, it either says overclock or normal. I always put mine on overclock. Doesn't really matter, but I just want to get the most performance. If you want this to run quieter, you just put it on normal. All right, so let's go ahead and hook this up. So all I'm going to do is hook up this power supply with this motherboard, add this on a riser, and then hook it up with a bunch of PCIe cables. Again, it comes from Parallel Miner, and just use a breakout board. So the power supply itself is going to have a cord that's going to go to the outlet along with this. This also needs a power cord. It's pretty much the exact same one. If possible, get anything less than a 18 gauge wire. So normally they do come with 18 gauge, but when you do mine, you want the gauge to be at least 14, hopefully, if not 16, because I'm only going to be using one GPU on this power supply for mining. You know, 18 gauge is totally fine. It's not a problem. But just remember, 18 gauge comes with normal desktops, right? So that's with like 1 or 2 GPUs max. When you have a mining rig, you'd want the like a more thicker cable. So that's where you get the 16 gauge or 14 gauge. If you look online, it will either show as 14 AWG or 16 AWG. So that's something to kind of look out for. All right, so this is our old power supply, 300 watts only. And this is only going to be powering up the motherboard, and that's about it. This is going to be powering the 39 GPU. So to kind of simplify it, we're just going to be plugging the 24 pin right now. This goes over here. I'll show you guys over here. The only other cable that we need is this one right here. So this is a 4-pin. This is to provide additional power to the motherboard. Usually this is a 6-pin, but because this motherboard is pretty old, it's a 4-pin. All right, and now for the HP server power supply. All right, and we're gonna be using this 4 capacitor riser for now. There are newer ones that come with 8 capacitor. I think they're on GPUrisers.com and a few others. The thing is, these will work with a 3090, right? The 8 capacitor ones, they did come out recently, a few months ago. But again, the 4-pin capacitors, they will still work regardless. They've been, you know, tested for several years now. The 8 capacitor ones recently came out, and I've seen a lot of dead risers, the 8 capacitor ones. I don't know why, but again, these were tried and true. They've been working for several years now, so that's why I'm sticking to a 4 capacitor riser. Later on in a few months, I will be upgrading most of my GPUs to an 8-pin, sorry, to an 8 capacitor, but for now, these ones should work. With the risers, they do come with a SATA to a 6-pin. Never use this, just throw it out. It also comes with a USB, and this is what you're going to be using to plug into the motherboard, the X16 slot. All right, so one end goes in here. Cool. The other end goes into here. Just like that. And I'm going to be putting this into the X1 over here. Okay, and now we have to, you know, power this riser, and we're going to be using one of these cables. So there's two places you actually can put it in. One is a 6-pin here, the other one is a 6-pin at the bottom. It just depends on how your frame is set up. If you put it here and you put the GPU on top, it's kind of hard to actually take out. So putting it on the side, for me personally, is just a bit easier to use. And the other end will go into one of the slots on here. Then we grab the actual 3090, and we're just gonna make sure all the stickers are gone. All right, and this goes in here like so. And this 3090 specifically comes with 3 PCIe slots at the top. So this, along with the riser one, we're looking at 4 PCIe cables just to power this up. So just as a reminder, this cable, it's a 6-pin to a 6 plus 2-pin. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now, what you want to do is use the 6-pin. This part, the one without the extra cabling, this part goes into the breakout board, right? And then this 6 plus 2-pin, so this with the additional 2-pin over here, this is the one that goes into your GPU. If you're just powering the riser, all you gotta do is put this end onto the actual riser, but again, always this part goes into the breakout board. Hopefully you guys can see that. This is just a normal 6-pin. It has no additional 2-pin like this one here. So again, this always in the breakout board. No matter what, this goes into either the riser or the GPU. All right, so that's about it. All I have to do now is burn a copy of HiveOS onto a USB and then put it into the motherboard. Just to kind of recap what we did, this old 300 watt power supply, it's an ATX form. This is only powering the motherboard, and that's about it. No GPUs are being powered by this. The riser here is being powered by a HP server power supply and along with the GPU. So 4 strands of the cables are going to the breakout board, which is hooked up to the 1200 watt power supply. Remember, because I'm using this on a 120 volt outlet, it's not going to be 1200 watts. The server power supply is only going to be rated for 900 watts. So that's something to kind of consider. And yeah, the only thing left is to put HiveOS, and when I do that, I'm going to turn everything on. All right, so now that I got everything hooked up, I'm using an APC surge protector just because where the table is, and it's kind of far from the wall. So this is the cable that's coming from the HP server power supply, and this old cable is coming from the older ATX power supply here. So this is powering only the motherboard. HP server power supply is powering up this entire 3090 right here, and also the riser, which is at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is power this one on first, right? Just so the GPU can be on. And when I turn on the motherboard, that's when it's going to see that the GPU is recognized. And hopefully it can be loaded onto HiveOS, which we can determine. So yeah, all we got to do is turn on the power right here. Okay, so this obviously turns on. And what you want to do is turn this one on. So 3090 turns on, fans are kicking. And just give it a few seconds. I'm going to turn on the power supply here. Hopefully everything works. Yep, motherboard is on. And yeah, we'll just give it a few seconds, and hopefully we will see this 3090 in our HiveOS. Alright guys, so after putting in the HiveOS USB, this it's good to go. It did set up, and it's actually showing this 3090. I didn't put a flight sheet as of yet, but I did recognize obviously the 3090, and of course everything else is pretty stable. So what I'm going to do is actually add a flight sheet. So what I did right now is I added a flight sheet to this, and I'm just going to overclock it right now. I'm just going to give it the base 1200 for the absolute core clock. Memory, I'm going to put it as 2200 for now. And fan, let's do 75. Power limit 320. So this is pretty much the same overclocks that I add on all my 3090s, and everything else is good to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit apply. So it shows here 317 watts. It's actually kind of high. I don't know, we'll see. All right, cool. Now we do have the 3090 currently mining 119 mega hash and 293, so 75 total. Let's actually make this 2400 because I think that's what the other 39s I have. All right, so after waiting a bit, I noticed that it won't go any higher than 120. So I guess I'll play around with it a bit later. Again, these are the overclocks: 75, 1200 on the absolute core, memory 2400, and 320 power limit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for now, but you know, it's kind of cool because I'm finally at around 800 mega hash on Ethereum, right? We got this up and running using an old 2007-2008 motherboard along with the CPU. You know, the RAM was still in there as well, and this was the old ATX power supply. Yeah, being able to actually power this up and use this to mine with that, along with the HPs for power supply. So everything worked pretty flawlessly. What I'm going to do is put it back into the actual desktop case maybe, or just get a another mining frame and just put it in probably in this room because I'm kind of capped out on power. Again, we finally hit 800 mega hash on Ethereum. And this is the final product. So I just got a new mining frame, and it's kind of better than leaving it on a table. The actual case, I couldn't fit this specific GPU in because it was way too long. I just kind of zip tied the HP's power supply here, and then the ATX one is obviously at the bottom. And kind of cable managed one. Again, this is only one card. Once I do get more, I'm gonna have to reroute the cables, which is, you know, totally fine. But overall, yeah, it looks kind of clean. I just left it here, and obviously you can see here it's currently mining. So almost 119, where is it? 119, 199, almost 120 mega hash at 51 degrees. So yeah, that's just the end. We finally hit 800 mega hash. Super happy about that, and hopefully, because Ethereum's merge is most likely going to be delayed, I'm hoping to get maybe 2 more cards just so I can hit the 1 giga hash mark. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
It's a homicide.